Welcome to the Illinois Perinatal Quality Collaborative Labor Management Support e-modules. These e-modules were made as a resource to support hospital implementation of the ILPQC Promoting Vaginal Birth, or PVB, initiative. The aim of the PVB initiative is for 70% of Illinois hospitals to be at or below the Healthy People 2030 goal of 23.6% cesarean delivery rate among NTSV, or nulliparous term singleton and vertex births, by December 31st, 2022. Our goals include increasing the percent of C-sections among NTSV births that meet ACOG SMFM criteria for cesarean, as well as educating physicians, midwives, and nurses on ACOG and SMFM criteria for cesarean, including labor management strategies. Hospital quality improvement teams participating in the PVB initiative are working on 5 key strategies to reduce cesareans among NTSV births, including labor management support. ILPQC partnered with Jessica Brumley, the co-creator of the Florida Perinatal Quality Collaborative, or FPQC, labor support workshops, completed by over 400 nurses and providers in Florida as part of FPQC's Promoting Primary Vaginal Deliveries, or PROVIDE initiative. Jessica is Director of Midwifery at the University of South Florida Department of Obstetrics and Gynecology, where she leads a team of 14 midwives and advanced practice nurses. She also serves as an advisor on the FPQC PROVIDE initiative. In August and September of 2021, Jessica and ILPQC worked together to offer 2 live virtual labor management support courses for nurses and providers in Illinois. These sessions were recorded and broken down by topic into this collection of 14 e-modules ranging from 6 to 21 minutes each. We are excited to share them with you. Now I will turn it over to Jessica.
This next part is, I think, sort of like the meat and potatoes of what most people think of when they're thinking of labor support. It's 2 parts. We'll take a break right in between in between the first and the second part, and we've broken it up into promoting active labor progress and then comfort techniques, and they're both so intertwined. But in the promoting active labor progress, I've tried to focus on really sort of like the mechanics of it, and in the comfort techniques, obviously, what we can do to promote comfort. And so I hope you enjoyed this. Same kind of outline. I put this, okay, so this is what our button looked like. I told you earlier that I made, we had buttons made that we would give out at the workshops. And so this was our button. 6 is the new 4. People would be like, what's up with the cookie? That's 6 centimeters versus a Ritz cracker. It would certainly engage people in conversation about it. Even sometimes patients would be like, what's this about? And so I came back to the active labor partogram, because now this is the part of labor that we're talking about, right? That the active part of labor that starts usually at about around 6 centimeters. What I like about this partogram is that it highlights normal labor progress. If you're greater than or equal to 37 weeks and this is your first baby, but then there's this whole sort of yellow area, right? The consider interventions area. And then you've got the greater than or equal to 95th percentile, make a delivery plan. Like, okay, you have this opportunity to intervene, and in this sort of yellow zone. And if we don't capitalize on that, then we're going to end up in this red zone of if we're not, if we're not making progress, the red zone is going to be leading to a cesarean section. So I wanted to review with everyone what is the definition of arrest of labor in the first stage. So this is spontaneous labor more than or equal to 6 centimeters dilation with membranes rupture and either 4 hours of adequate contractions, as evidenced by 200 Montevideo units, or 6 hours or more of inadequate contractions and no cervical change. I like to start with this quote as we move forward. As we move forward together, improving the structure and processes of care with mothers and newborns, let us focus on keeping normal normal. And too often, it's not. Normal birth isn't the norm for American women. And so I use this picture. I use it to teach med students and in our workshops, because I mean, first of all, it's just a simulation, but there's so much that people often see in this picture that is so wrong, but replicated every day on labor and birthing units throughout the United States. You have this person who's laying flat on her back, her legs up in the air, there's side conversations going on. There's no one is looking at our Annie, really, right? This is like a, mannequin. No one's looking at this person in their eyes. And that we're not focused on, the birth that is about to happen. Normal birth, as defined by the World Health Organization and expert professional organizations, is spontaneous in onset and progression, powered by the innate human capacity of the woman and fetus, and a normal physiologic phenomenon for the vast majority of women. I say this in part because sometimes I think we have to remind ourselves of this, because we see so much intervention and not normal in our hospitals. So I wanted to review the physiology of labor. So how are hormones influenced by labor? How does labor and intervention in it influence our hormones? In environments where women feel stressed and fearful, stress hormones such as catecholamines can increase, reducing oxytocin and slowing the process of the first stage of labor. And adrenaline and noradrenaline mediate the fight or flight stress response and may slow or stop labor. In labor, anxiety or situations in which the woman doesn't feel private, safe, and undisturbed may provoke epinephrine, norepinephrine elevations, which may slow or stall labor and reduce fetal blood supply. So what can we do in order to counteract this? So continuous support, right? Creating a safe and peaceful environment and respectful care with shared decision-making, right? So all of these really basic things are actually supporting our normal physiology, right? So it's not just, right? It's not just the right thing to do. It's the right thing to do because it supports our human physiology. Beta endorphins are endogenous opioids that give analgesic and adaptive responses to stress and pain. So beta endorphins promote an altered state of consciousness that may help labor stress and pain. They also provide fetal neuroprotection from hypoxia, and postpartum peaks of beta endorphins along with oxytocin can facilitate maternal euphoria, prime reward centers, imprinting pleasure with infant contact and care. And so I think of this as, like it says, endogenous opioids, right? So when you have spontaneous normal physiologic labor, then your body actually secretes these hormones that help you to be able to cope with labor, right? So, you don't need IV fentanyl as much or at all when you've got that spontaneous onset of labor. And so this is what gives women that, like, they go to that labor land kind of place where they're like in the zone and just, kind of like just, in that altered state of consciousness, right? It is our normal physiology that's helping to support that beta endorphins. Excessive maternal stress in labor can lead to excessive beta endorphins, which can actually inhibit oxytocin and slow labor. Alternatively, too low levels of beta endorphins may not give adequate stress and pain reduction or activate those postpartum pleasure and reward centers. So really, we want that optimal level of beta endorphins to reduce stress and promote labor progress. And that level is probably different for each person. So there are some common practices that may influence beta endorphin physiology. Labor analgesia that effectively reduces pain will reduce maternal beta endorphins to some degree. Now, this may be beneficial if excessive stress is inhibiting labor. I mean, how many times have you had to tell someone, you need an epidural, right? It's the only tool that we haven't used. You're not making progress. Why not try this right now? And sure enough, she gets the epidural, and what happens? She's complete, right? I mean, she just relaxed and everything opened up. That's someone who needed effective pain relief in order to help optimize, right, her beta endorphins. However, reduced beta endorphins, as found with epidurals, may also reduce postpartum reward center activation, potentially impacting hormonally mediated maternal adaptations and attachment, which also involve oxytocin. So the reduction in maternal oxytocin that generally follows administration of epidural analgesia may lead to the use of synthetic oxytocin to compensate. And the prolonged use of synthetic oxytocin may desensitize the oxytocin receptor system and increase the risk of postpartum hemorrhage. So often I see women who like just sort of kicked into active labor when they got to the hospital. We got them the epidural they wanted, like right away, super fast. And then everything just kind of spaced out, right? Like contractions just started to space out. And we interrupted her normal physiology when we gave that intervention, for good or for bad. I mean, it is what it is, but it kind of, explains, what we see. And, and it's important for us to remember that, synthetic oxytocin is a really powerful tool. It's really helpful for us to use when we need it, but also something that we don't want to use excessively, right? Synthetic oxytocin or PIT can lead to uterine hyperstimulation with potential fetal hypoxia. It requires extra monitoring. Those stronger contractions and increased pain often, lead to needing an epidural, right? So it makes sense that when we start our contractions with Pitocin, instead of spontaneous labor, you don't have those natural beta endorphins. And so they're more painful. People say, oh, contractions with PIT, they hurt worse. They do. You don't have those natural beta endorphins to counteract that. And we know that overexposure can cause desensitization of the oxytocin receptors, contributing to reduced contractility, prolonged pushing, instrumental birth, and postpartum hemorrhage. And there is some evidence to suggest that there may be a disruption in newborn breastfeeding behaviors as well.